Hello. Today I'm doing a book report on Fateful Lightning. The author of the book was Jeff Shaara. The genre is historical fiction. The initial year of publication is 2012, and the similar books I would say is Abraham Lincoln, also published by Jeff Shaara. And I give this book about an overall rating of 5 out of 5. People who I think would like this book are people who like history but not reading as much. And I would say there are spoilers in here because it does talk about the climax of the book. My mandatory plot, I said the exposition. The story rotates around several main historical figures, three generals, one Confederate, two Union, and a boy named Franklin. The two Union generals are Grant and Sherman, and their campaigns through the war, and a general named Wheeler, who was tasked with slowing down Sherman's army on its march through the South. And then Franklin, who was just a boy, former slave, who eventually escapes to the Union army. The rising action, Franklin joins the Union Army after its slave master leaves the plantation. He runs away to it. In a climax, the book, the four characters all have climaxes, but I chose Franklin because his story seemed to be more focused on the book. He ends up winning the battle and ends up stabbing a man and saving one of his fellow soldiers, who ends up how he gains the admiration of the rest of the men. The following action is the ending scenes of the book when Franklin ends up, or Sherman, sorry, ends up getting a letter saying that Lincoln has been killed after Sherman's greatest victory. The resolution is the book ends with the war's conclusion and those who had once been generals or soldiers going back to their lives before the war. The menu choice 1 story element, I said protagonist explanation. I said Franklin, a boy who was once kept a slave but runs away to the army. He sees it as his way of escape and his freedom. Antagonist and explanation. A Confederate cavalry and skirmishers are the enemy in the book, and they usually try and recapture or slaughter runaway slaves. My favorite character, or my supporting character, is Franklin's girlfriend, who wants him to leave and leave the army. She knows what they're doing. She knows that he has a chance of dying. She just wants to run away with him. My favorite character was Sherman because he never wants the men to suffer. He never wants to make the people suffer of the South. But the book, it goes on. The setting, it takes place in Georgia and Sherman's marches on Savannah. The character arc, I said Sherman, who was originally displayed as a monster, is actually a very nervous man. He's very uncomfortable with the whole situation of the war. Character archetype, I said Franklin is a hero who goes from a lowly slave to a soldier, and then eventually, he has a girlfriend and all that. My narrative voice, set in the past in southern Georgia. My first conflict from venue choice 2, story development, was the first battle, where Franklin goes into his first battle and is absolutely horrified. He's terrified by the blood. He doesn't like the slaughter, and ends up being very terrifying. That's one of his main reasons for leaving the army. Conflict 2, the burning of Savannah. A bunch of drunk soldiers accidentally set fire to Savannah by burning cotton bales, which they were ordered to do to destroy the southern economy, and it ends up actually setting Savannah on fire, which then causes Sherman to be in trouble. And my third conflict is the slaves that are abandoned. Slaves are causing a lag in the supply train for Sherman, and his fast march to the South is very lacking because he has to drag all the slaves behind. So he ends up burning the bridge and actually leaving them to Confederate cavalry, and many slaves, rather than being recaptured, jump in the river and drown in an attempt to escape. Physical plane actions for menu choice 3, profundity. I said they're wearing the book is lagging. The army is lagging behind with the slaves, which causes Sherman to leave them behind and leaves them to get slaughtered. A mental plane. Franklin thought the army was some sort of grand thing that was coming to save all of them, and then he realizes it's only to a means to an end, and that they're left behind, except him because he's a soldier. Moral plane, again, Franklin thinks it's some sort of grand thing, but then realizes the horror. Psychological plane, all Franklin wanted to do was to be free. He saw the armies as a means to do this, and so he joined the army to do this. Analogical plane, comparison. To me, Franklin seems to be a lot like Lincoln. He didn't want the war. He didn't want this conflict, but he did want his freedom. And he, so I see him a lot like Lincoln, where he just wanted the freedom, but the war was just a means to an end. Uh, and a transformational plane, it shows that historical heroes have dark sides, while people who we don't know about, like people like Franklin, they're probably the real heroes of the story. The ones with the least amount of sin to them. Then I did, for my literary criticism, I did the historicism. I said it follows the Civil War and it shows the battles and the strategy of the soldiers and how they fought it. Restate the title and author. Fateful Lightning by Jeff Shaara. Again, this is the book. My prediction, if the book had continued, because my idea was that Franklin would go on with his wife and live a happy life. And restate why I like the book. I said it's a historic book, then it shows history really well. Again, it's a very easy read for those who don't like reading, but it shows a lot of history really well, in my opinion. My rating was 5 out of 5. Again, it's one of my favorite books. Why I think people would like this. I said people who like history but not reading. The story goes on naturally. It's not like a clunky feeling to it. And what makes the book good in my eyes? I said it shows people as people, not as heroes. It shows the human emotion, not the brave knight, not the courageous general. It shows them as human, which is why I like it.